The Walt Disney Company has been its own worst enemy for the last several years, and a brand new publication from Rasmussen Reports out Thursday, October 5th, suggests that things in the House of Mouse aren't frankly getting any better. Wall Street and investors had better start asking one simple question. How is it that a paragon of family and children's entertainment have gone from almost universal love and praise by American families to now being split down the middle on political lines?
I wonder.
Renegade Online. Welcome back, folks. It's another great day here at Valiant Renegade. It's good to see everybody out there once again. And if you are one of the many folks watching this video, not yet subscribed to this channel, please take a moment and turn that little red subscribe button to gray. Hit that like button, hit that notification bell, share this sucker out on the social medias, and of course, please do leave a comment before you head out the door today. Join us every Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern for the live show right here on Valiant Renegade, where we cover all these topics and more in greater detail. Hope to see you there. From Rasmussen, has politics damaged Disney's brand? After getting in a high-profile conflict with Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, the Disney Company is viewed unfavorably by most Republicans. Well, they have a few more problems than simply party lines. The latest Rasmussen Report national telephone and online survey finds that 51% of American adults view Disney Entertainment Company favorably, including 22% who have a very favorable impression. 40% have an unfavorable impression of Disney, including 21% very unfavorable. And those findings have changed little since an early report from Rasmussen back in March. 62% of Democrats view Disney favorably, but 61% of Republicans have an unfavorable impression. 35% of those with a very unfavorable impression of the entertainment giant. Among those not affiliated with either major party, 58% have a favorable impression of Disney and 32% unfavorable. Let's not forget Bob Iger recently made a statement at an investors conference of private attendees that Disney would, quote, try to quiet the noise. And although there was not much color given to those comments, at least from the reports, folks could easily assume the political fight in Florida was certainly taking its toll on Disney. But there's more to it than just that. It's Disney being directly involved into politics or taking political stances or social political stances when they otherwise shouldn't, because it simply divides their very valuable audience, an audience they've counted on for many decades now to pay their bills. And of course, we all know the doldrums of the Disney financial condition in recent months and years. What's interesting is how people have reacted to this over time. 26% of Americans currently think avoiding political conflicts will help the Walt Disney Company, while 21% believe it will hurt the Walt Disney Company. But 44% say avoiding politics will not make much of a difference for Disney. Now, while the article raises enough questions on its own, I've actually gone ahead and obtained the results of the survey line by line. These are the crosstabs, the questions that were actually asked, the breakdown of demographics by the respondents, and what they were. Now, to the first question, what is your impression of the Walt Disney Company? It's a bit of a vague question. It leaves it very open-ended. That could give audiences any kind of ability to answer through their own lens of their perception of what that question could mean. But in this case, to the article's point, you've got 19% at unfavorable, 21% at very unfavorable. That totals up to about 40% and 9% not sure. But the second question is a little bit more interesting. Will avoiding political conflicts help or hurt the Walt Disney Company? Over 50%, as a matter of fact, 53% suggested that it would not make much of a difference or they were uncertain. Many folks may tend to gloss over those stats, but I quite frankly find them the most interesting of all the survey because it suggests that 53% or a majority of people seem to have maybe already made up their mind with what they believe about the Walt Disney Company, meaning that Disney may not be able to move the needle for the majority of American respondents to this survey if they were to change course at this point. The Walt Disney Company has buried itself into so much of the social and political climate, at least on one side of the aisle, that it seems like most people have settled into their viewpoints, and there may not be much that Disney can do to change their minds. What's even possibly more bothersome is that nearly 50% of married adults with children at home said that nothing that Disney would do in terms of avoiding political conflicts at this moment would change their opinion. In fact, only 27% of married respondents suggested that Disney avoiding political conflicts would help their perception. Only 35% of those respondents with children at home suggested the same. And when you combine that with the fact that nearly 50% of folks said their opinions would not change, regardless of Disney changing course, this seems to suggest that Disney may have alienated a very large portion of its existing audience, and that audience may be unwilling to reevaluate their position and their perception of the Walt Disney Company, even if they were to change course today. Only 24% of married respondents suggested that Disney getting out of politics would hurt their opinion, and only 18% of those with kids suggested that getting out of politics would hurt their opinion. If we simply go by the pure data in the crosstabs, it seems plenty obvious to me that America is fed up with Disney's social political movement. They're fed up with the virtue signaling. And that's become very apparent, not only with declining park attendance, but also with the more readily apparent and repetitive issues, the easy things for families to come by, meaning watching shows on Disney Plus or Disney broadcast television, or how about watching things in the theaters that Disney puts out. We've covered extensively flop after flop after flop of Disney films from places like Marvel Studios, Disney Animation, and Pixar. Families have largely abandoned this when just a few years ago, each of these movies was an almost guaranteed success. Let's look at that top line, because that is the question of what is your impression of Disney? When it comes to the higher income tiers, the impressions of Disney tend to be a little bit better. Gee, I wonder why. Those are the only people still left in this country that can still afford to go to a Disney theme park. And again, look at the top line of questions. Are you a Disney investor as you respond to these? What is your impression of the Walt Disney Company? 43% of Disney investors, apparently, who responded to this either had a somewhat unfavorable, very unfavorable, or uncertain impression of a company that they own stock in. But on the crosstab from the first to the second question, meaning that the people who responded to a favorable or somewhat favorable impression of the Walt Disney Company and then answered the second question of will avoiding political conflicts help or hurt the Disney Company, 66% of the people that had favorable impressions of Disney said that avoiding political conflicts would help the Walt Disney Company. 29% on the very favorable, 37% from the somewhat favorable. Women at 57% are more likely than men at 51% to have a favorable impression of Disney, and the gender divide is sharpest among those under 40 years old, with 64% of men under 40 viewing Disney unfavorably, while 62% of women under 40 view the company favorably. Remember, Walt Disney is a company under Bob Iger that has spent billions and billions, tens of billions of dollars, frankly, trying to, in the last decade or two, cajole more male audiences, younger male audiences, into becoming Disney fans by acquiring such properties as Marvel and Star Wars. It doesn't seem to be working out that well for them.
Oh no! What happened?
I'm one of Fairy Godmother's apprentices. I'm here to shop you around and make all your selections for the day.
That's a man in a dress.
I wonder.
Eat it up. Go play okay, 3, 2, 1.
I will kill for you, Megan Thee Stallion.
Dial it back.
One of the more interesting tidbits is adults with children at home are more likely than their childless peers to have a favorable opinion of Disney. And parents, however, are also more likely to think that staying out of politics will help the Walt Disney Company. Now, make of that what you will, but probably parents with kids at home are very happy, according to Nielsen reports and their ratings measurements each and every week for streaming services, to have their kids sit around at home watching reruns of Bluey. It's the only thing that continuously racks its way up the Nielsen charts, and maybe that's all the parents are really looking at with Disney anymore. The fact that Disney has been unable to move the needle in nearly 7 months since the last survey was conducted means that nothing that Disney is doing right now is working. When they continue to dive into politics and social issues, and then compound that with the fact that they seem to be completely creatively bankrupt, meaning they're not putting anything out on the big screen or the small screen that's really getting the largesse of American audiences engaged. Whether it's Star Wars, Marvel, or Pixar, it doesn't seem to matter. The needle is dead stuck. And congratulations to Disney for splitting the country down political lines. And what's interesting is that with just over 60% of Democrats having a favorable opinion, and just over 60% of Republicans having an unfavorable opinion, you have to ask yourself how Disney has even screwed that portion up. Disney's politics and social game, at least for the last many years since Bob Iger has really taken firm control of the company, has very much steered in one direction, to the left. How is it that Democrats aren't much more engaged with Disney, at least by Disney's own thought process? Why don't we have an 80+% Democrat Party respondent to this with a favorable opinion of Disney? I would guess that a lot of those 40+ and 50+ respondents that are out there that may be in certain areas of the country that harken back to the Reagan era, the old blue dog Democrats, if you were, that tend to be more conservative than liberal, are probably none too happy with the Walt Disney Company either. Disney should be an entertainment company first, for general audiences, for families, and especially for children. Diving into social issues, diving into LGBTQ politics, never a good idea. All you're going to do is alienate one of the largest pieces of your audience that pays your bills, and frankly, the audience that pays most of your bills. If you continue to chip away at them, there's not going to be anybody left in a few years to keep the parks going or to go see your movies. And based on this survey, it sounds like you've already run off a great number of folks permanently. This is a company that is floundering for no other reason but by its own hand. Disney has put itself in this position, and it's going to have to get itself out. But as I continue to remind folks, I highly doubt that anybody who is running the Disney company currently is capable of making that change. It's going to have to be a complete overhaul from the top down, starting with Wall Street and the investors. We're going to talk about that more in a later video, so stay tuned for that one. But let me know your thoughts in the comments below before you head out. Make sure you're subscribed to Valiant Renegade and join us every Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern for the live show.